Hey there. So my next guest is he's in IT, but he really wanted to talk about the beginning of his entrepreneurial journey. And at the end of this interview, he actually asked me for some advice, and I'll admit I spaced halfway through my answer, so there was a little bit of editing at the end of this episode. But the advice I gave is very good for those of you looking to make yourself stand out from everybody. So I really do hope you guys enjoy this episode. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Gamerpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bradford Carlton. Today's episode, I have a very special guest with us. I have Will Malpartida. Hey there, Will. How's it going?
It's going good. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Absolutely. So, Will, where do you hail from?
I'm from Jersey City, New Jersey. I'm pretty much a stone's throw away from New York City.
Fantastic. City never sleeps.
Yep.
Although I think Las Vegas might, contend with that as well.
It's Las Vegas is bright. I'll give it that much. I've seen it.
You've flown into town. It's absolutely just beautiful. Lights as far as you can see.
Yeah, it's like desert. Ooh, Vegas.
Yeah, clearly. Is that it? No. Is that it? That's it. All right. So, Will, let's just get right into this. Why don't you go ahead and tell me a little bit about yourself, please?
Okay. Let's see. I'm 45. I'm working right now as a desktop analyst. My local hospital doing it's pretty much a fancy way of saying desktop support or tech support or however you want to put it. I fix computers that doctors break.
Fantastic. I'm sure they do that a lot.
Quite a lot. They can fix people's brains, but they can't fix a computer. Go figure.
Right. Well, if they can even figure out how to turn it on, because I know every time they update the software, I'm sure we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, they do that a lot.
Okay, so before we get into all that, Will, this is the Gamerpreneur. So I'm going to need your gaming cred. If you could tell me, when did you start playing video games?
Oh man, I'm going way back to when I was 4, and one of my first games was Space Invaders.
I love it.
And I was so young that I couldn't even see the bottom of the screen. I could only see the top part with the aliens and the shields. So I had to guess half the time, what I was firing at. So I went from there on, and then Space Invaders, and then Galaxian, and then go on further to the 2600 days, and it just goes on from there. I love studying games in the past. I love it.
Wonderful. Okay, so how about today? What do you play today?
Well, let's see. Today I take a whole bunch of random games here and there. Like, for example, I just finally defeated Fallout 3 and all the DLC. So once I got that done, now I'm going back. Now I'm going through the Bard's Tale remix they're doing now, which they did. They remixed the first 3 Bard's Tale from the computer, and they made it more modernized. It's very interesting because it's a different gameplay than what I remember playing back in the day. I mean, I'm not sure how many people may know this about grinding, because how people complain in RPGs about grinding. These games back then were the king of grinds. Half the game is just grind. Next level, grind. Next level, grind. And then you can get further. It's the overall plot of the games are short, but the grinding is huge.
Hey, that's how I played Dragon Quest. I've yet to beat that game because I can't kill anything for the first 5-10 levels. I just have to grind until I'm okay, let's move on.
Yeah, that was a notorious one for that one. Yeah, those type of games, like I say, those are crazy. And on the I played that one sometimes, and then other times I'd jump into other games. I'd jump around them, and I also play older games, but more remixed. For example, I got how they had the recent Quake that got released, from BC if we subscribe. Well, I found a mod called Dark Places, which completely changed the game. It gave it took the FPS from 45 to over 200, so everything is flowing smoothly, and all the enemies are really, they look real. Even the boxy graphics got they got more smoothed out, the graphics. They even added bloom effects for the explosions and whatnot. So it made the game look much better, and even the mouse controls were faster and more precise than the old Quake.
Very nice. And I know I don't think this episode will be out in time for anybody to grab it, but Quake 2, I think it was today they just are releasing for free as well. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, try to grab that one while you can.
All right, you better hurry.
Okay, so Will, one more kind of gaming related question, then we'll move on.
Sure.
What is your favorite game of all time? And you've had like lots of years of experience being able to play games. So which one, if you had to pick one?
Oh, that's an easy one, and that's because it literally changed my whole life. I'm going with, and I don't care what it says, I'm going with this one, Dance Dance Revolution.
I love it. Like that was my senior year in high school right there.
Oh man, I started playing that around 2001, and what they made the game for me was not only the music, not only the fact that it was like nice place to hang out and actually meet people, because through that game I got to meet more people and I got to do more crazy adventures such as conventions and gaming conventions and other states to travel to play against people. But it brought me out of my shell as I was doing most of the performance part where everybody was just, making moves and actually dancing on the pad instead of worrying about the score. This is more the infancy of the game, but it was so much fun where we had like people who play the game seriously and then people who just say, but they're gonna put on a show for us, let's enjoy it.
I was neither of those. I was lucky to get through the song. All right. So, Will, that's fantastic. Now, you say basically in IT at a hospital, but what's your professional background? How did you get here?
Let's see. You mean as an part of like how to get to your gaming? Like what can
No, into your professional, your what you do for a living.
Oh, that was happily accidental. It was more of I was finishing up the drive for like a computer information management system degree, and then the recruiter they recruited me for a job right there at the very last day. So it's like I got a job on the day of graduation, working in the city, doing and working in the financial district. So I did about a couple years, and then the financial district company did a stupid move where they dropped everybody who was working tech support. I think they outsourced it somewhere else, which made no sense to anybody. So then, in emergency thing, my company moved me to another job in the hospital, and I've been there ever since. Like they just like to keep me on board because I like working with people, and I like people, and the people knew well, and I got along with everybody. So I've been here for 20 years.
Wonderful. Okay, so can you kind of describe what it is you do? Because part of my purpose in this show is to expose people to new possibilities they may never considered for themselves.
Okay. So here's the thing. It's because I also am doing things on the side as well. So it's sort of this is where it balances. So my current job is I am the type of person that they put tickets in. They say my computer's broken. I gotta go investigate. Right now because of COVID, it's mostly remote. We try staying in our places, but sometimes I have to go there and replace parts here and there. But the most interesting projects are the ones where you got somebody who wants to do one thing, and I gotta go over there and see what they have, and recommend either a software like say like trying to find an alternate for Zoom or trying to find a way of making Windows work with Teams because Teams are a memory hog. I got to try to make that project work, or I got somebody who wants to bring the Apple computer on site, and then we got to figure out how to get that supported in our system so it doesn't cause any security issues. So I get involved in projects like that, and sometimes I get the projects also involved where person A is moving over there, so I got to basically help them figure out like, hey, okay, in this location you got this, and you need more of this. You need a network connection. You need more table space, you need more power, like things like that, like those kind of project natures. I was there since 2001, so I've seen all the upgrades, and the hospital has actually expanded 3 times over so far.
Okay, so what's the most exciting part about your job?
Honestly, I think it's when they present the more difficult and interesting problems that they want that requires research.
Okay.
Like research.
I would imagine after 20 years, you've probably seen it all.
Quite a lot of stuff. I mean, unfortunately, the adage about doctors sometimes not remembering that the power plug is in is still prevalent. It's common. how like that. The other day, I had somebody who couldn't get the wireless keyboard and mouse working, and they were calling me frantic, like, "How come can't it working?" The hub was missing. So it's like I'm like, there's no hub to plug in, so it's not detecting it. Somebody else had grabbed it by accident.
So I worked for Circuit City for a while. I was never in tech support, but
Ooh,
when you work at Circuit City, they expect you to know about electronics, right?
yes,
And what I learned from tech support was 94% of the time, if you just turn it off and turn it back on, it fixes it.
quite. And we had a few situations where it's even funnier, where some of the computers you had to turn it off, but then plug in an older keyboard to get it working. Because then between turning it on and going to Windows, it's not seeing the USB keyboard. Some computers had that flaw, we call it.
Hey, when I built my computer, I had to do that before I could plug in my Razer keyboard. I had to find another keyboard somewhere. Okay, so now, Will, you said you had some other stuff going on the side. What do you got?
Well, right now I'm working on my bachelor's in digital cinematography.
Very cool. What made you decide to do that?
This is where it goes back to Dance's Revolution, because back in the day, we had one tournament over in New York City, one big tournament, and the guy who recorded the tournament lost all footage. So everybody got mad. I got even madder because I don't like losing footage like that, especially something historic. So I borrowed my mom's camcorder and I started recording the events for a while, for a couple of years around the area. Like I just recorded anytime there was a tournament, I went there recording it. So I give a hand with that. And over the years, I kind of like enjoying recording things, recording events, and even also in movies, how the camera's placed. So then a couple of years ago, I said, I got a call from Full Sail because I had applied with them before for something else, and they called me back, and we had to make some arrangements, and now I'm finishing up my degree there.
Well, congratulations. That's wonderful.
Thank
So
you.
I have to wonder, like, you've had this job at the hospital for 20 years. You worked before that. What made you decide to kind of just branch out like this?
Because the way it was going with it is that the only other options would be going to like network and server support and all that. And quite honestly, it's not my forte. It's not my favorite thing to go through. And I don't want to be like a manager there either because I know the politics. I mean, I love my current bosses so they can handle it, but I know I would have a hard time handling the upper management because I'm more rough and I'm more straight to the point and I don't play red tape.
All right.
And also what made me also go into film was that I realized that there are a few people saying I have a talent for it, and even sometimes playing some games and trying to record, like trying to basically do playback with camera settings. That's the biggest complaint I have. It's like, okay, I kind of like doing this. I
Okay.
love being a camera.
That's wonderful. Now, before we got on the live interview here, we were talking about entrepreneurship. What is it like kind of branching into the entrepreneurship like this?
Okay, yeah. So what's interesting is that for a long time I wasn't really thinking about entrepreneurship because I always figured it was just nothing I could do. I mean, it's all like running a business. Then a couple years back, I started realizing like I need to do something else because I can't keep working for someone like this and being you know hands tied, following what they said. And I try to think about other ways to earn some extra cash on the side. Basically, moving out from all that. And what got me onto your channel also was that whenever I heard entrepreneurship, it's always the same thing. We said it was like real estate, stocks, owning like drop shipping and all this other stuff. And most of that stuff does not excite me at all. So when I realized that you were one channel who basically talked about having gaming and entrepreneurship in sort of like a union in a way, that made me go, oh wait a second, this might be doable. Something like this. Since I like study, I'm a gamer that likes like the old games. Like I like studying the old games and seeing what made them tick.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. I love hearing that my content's actually having an effect on people. I don't hear this often, right? It's the silent majority, people who follow me but don't say anything. So thank you very much. I'm glad, you came across me and you're like, hey, I can do something like that. So what's your plan? What are you hoping to do?
Well, I'm hoping a bit to once I finish up with college, well, when I get my degree, to start working more in media production. And one of the things also was from your channel also got me thinking was like what else I could do. Now, the thing is, playing current games is hard for me because there's a lot of crazy gamers out there, and I'm better. I'm good at first person, but I'm not that great. I'm not a fighting game fanatics like the FCG has been, and most of my gaming is not like I'm an expert in anything. But what I like doing is studying history. I like studying older games and seeing what they made tick and what made work. And also, from my experiences playing them, I know what can happen. So it'd be kind of nice to basically showcase some of the past games that have come and gone. Like, for example, playing the first person shooter. Like, what exactly did they start with in the very beginning before all the stuff people knew, like Quake and Doom and Wolfenstein, like, or Call of Duty, like way, way, way back. What was it like, Or
It was
what?
rough.
Quite, quite. You had that dinosaur maze game. I can't remember the name of it now, but it was like way back in the TI computers where you basically were in a maze, you had to avoid the monster, the T-Rex chasing you. Or you also had one, I can't remember now, but it was like one of the first shooters in first person. But it was like it was on a TI computer too, which is really interesting. There's even projects to bring it emulation up to current standards so people can actually see a piece of history.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Okay, this is wonderful. Now, I'm going to ask kind of some personal questions, if that's all right.
That's
What
fine.
makes you unique? What makes you special and able to stand apart from everybody else?
The fact that I can be impulsive and more willing to try to give something a shot if it's fun. I'm one of the types that, let me put this. I'm the type of person that if say I give an example. Say last minute on a Friday night and there's a convention nearby going and you don't have a ride. And I'm like, and you can somebody come ask me and say, hey, can you give me a ride over? Can you get a ride over there? I'm like, yeah, let's go. On the whim, I'll go to the game convention on the weekend. I don't care. Like I'll do something like that. Or if say somebody's game said, hey, want to try this hack? Like try to hack the hexadecimal form. I was like, yeah, sure. Try some new tricks here and there. So I'm more willing to experiment and mess around with different things. Like, I have my limits. Like I'm not as crazy. Being 45, I got to be a little less impulsive.
Nah,
I,
gotta be
I
young at
like it.
heart.
Yeah, young at heart, but age catches up a little bit.
Okay, so Will, I'd like you to travel in the past with me if you can. And I'd like you to go back, well, we'll say 25 years. Okay. And you come across little Will. Okay,
Yeah.
there you are. You see little Will. You go up to him and you explain everything that's going to happen over the next 25 years of his life. What is the one thing that you make sure you impress upon him?
Ignore a lot of your haters. If you really just go out there and just try it, like don't worry about everybody hating or having opinions because most of the opinions are idiotic and also most of the people that have negative opinions on you have them because they know what you're capable of doing. And be a little more reckless, be a little more impulsive because you can come up with some crazy things that if you had done it first, you actually would have been a lot better off. Like,
Wonderful.
yeah, I tell them just go for it.
Okay, that's fantastic advice. Okay. Now, like kind of focusing again on your present career, because I want if somebody finds IT interesting, how do they get into it?
Okay. First thing about IT I'm going to explain right now is a lot of people when people say you need experience, you have to remember it's not just job experience. Don't try to focus so much on job experience. Focus on actually having experience. Talk like you can bring that to the table when you go in an interview. Like, talk about all the things you do in your spare time. Like, I've known somebody who got a job because they hosted their own server at home using these different parts they got here and there. I also had people who got a job because they were able to work on batch files and basically get it going in Windows. Or I've known people who understood things in different other programming languages. Some people got their Cisco certs early. Some people just got their certs early, but some people just were good at it. And also, be really good with people. Like, don't just come into the tech field like as help desk and treat everybody as if they're idiots. Because granted, yeah, people are calling and sometimes the problems are dumb to your head, but you have to remember, it's dumb to you, but it's like they don't understand it to them. You got to basically understand that people are going to be frustrated, they're going to be worried, they're going to have anxiety. You got to give them a little bit more leeway. You can't just expect everybody to know everything right away, because not everybody got into a computer like you did. It's like that.
Fantastic. Fantastic, Will. Okay. Now, I'd like to humble you if I can for a moment.
Sure.
Okay. So I believe that we learn the most in life from our failures. When we screw up, we get knocked down. We have to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, figure out what went wrong, and then move forward. So, Will, what is something that you have failed at, and what did you learn from it?
Ooh, let's see. Most of my plans, actually. I've learned that the problem I have with my plans, I found lately, this is actually more of a recent lesson, is that when you plan something, you also have to remember two things. One, it's not going to go exactly as you envision it always. It's not. It's most of the time you say, I'm going to have this plan, it's going to do wonders, this plan A. You're going to change that plan more often than you change underwear, because there's like so many obstacles and everything is going to mess it up. But B, the most important lesson I would say is when you plan something, remember that you have to put other people and situations in to keep them in mind. Because you're planning something and you're only thinking about yourself, I guarantee you it's going to mess up because somebody else is going to mess up somehow. It's either you're going to forget an appointment, you're going to arrive late, you've got some parts or certain things here and there. You forgot even people's birthdays or something. It's like you have to remember your plan has to also take account other people as well, especially those who are closest to you.
That's so true. Absolutely. And you never know when something's going to go wrong. You just never know.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. This has been fantastic, Will. Now, Will, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, how would they reach you? Social, contact.
Well, let's see. My Instagram, I have one that I've kind of been using for my photography and a couple of shoots here and there. It's one word for Instagram. It's Free Spirited Realms. So it's like Free Spirited and Realms, like Forgotten Realms or whatever other games you play with realms in it. One word. My Twitch, I go on and off here and there. My schedule. That's another thing I want to improve my schedule because it's been so hectic that I have a hard time keeping it. But it's Captain Shiggles. It's CPTSIGGLES. That's my Twitch. My email is also cptshiggles@gmail.com. And Facebook, I tend to just leave it for close friends and whatnot. So I'm kind of like a little bit more private on Facebook. But email is probably the best way to catch me.
Wonderful. Okay, now, Will, as we wrap up, is there anything else you want to talk about or anything I didn't ask you think we still need to cover?
I was kind of wanting to go over a little bit more, talking about I guess maybe an idea about ideas about gaming and entrepreneurship. Because I was saying before, I have an idea what I would like to do more of, especially more producing more content with it. It's difficult, but what I found was difficult was that I've seen other people do it. Like, as I said before, I like reviewing old games. So I would think about an idea of reviewing classic games here and there I could find and just going over the differences. Thing is, though, there's other YouTubers and probably a few Twitch people who have been doing this already. So it's kind of like idea of just trying to stand out in something like that. Like
okay.
yeah.
So you'd like some advice? Sure thing. I would say first thing is pick who you want to talk to first. Who's your audience that you want to resonate with? Okay. Once you know who your audience that you want to resonate with is, then you'll be able to create content that speaks to them. Because there's millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of people online, right? But that doesn't mean that there's millions and millions and millions and millions of content creators speaking to all of those different segments. So if you can go find the niche that you resonate most with and they resonate most with you, it happens pretty quickly. So for example, I have the gamerpreneur, right? And you came across my channel and it resonated almost instantly with you. And so if you can create a brand that speaks to people, then your content isn't the most important part, right? They'll care more about you. And I think the video I just recorded for tomorrow's podcast. So when this episode comes out, it'll be like last week's podcast. So it's about the message and the mission of your content. Okay. The thing that I see people doing wrong the most is they're just creating content. Okay. And so they think that if I just sit there and I play games and I talk, that's enough for people. And that may be enough to please people just right now. Okay. Most people who say they watch streamers say they care about the personality. Okay. But what if you are gone for a week? What if you're gone for a month? Like, well, they're going to go find somebody else's personality that they like just as well, and they're going to move on. But if you have a mission that they like feel that they're a part of, even if you're gone for a while, when you come back, that feeling of being on the mission is still there. Okay?
That's good advice there. I haven't thought about it that way.
Yeah, and like consider how many people you actually see like on Twitch or on Facebook streams or YouTube or the content creators. A good number of them make content, but they're not reaching for something more. It's really just kind of constantly putting stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was wondering about that, because that's like, you said something a little differently about actually reaching out to the audience rather than worry about making content. And as always, I've seen people just producing content. And my thing I was thinking was, that means I gotta constantly produce content. But I felt like when I was going to produce the content, there was no aim to it. So it was almost like, why was I gonna make content if I had no mission, you said? Yes.
A lot of people burn out because they make the content. Nobody's watching because what reason do they have? Like, oh, it's my personality. Well, there's 2 million some people streaming on Twitch each month. Like, they can get personality. What's holding them there? What's the hook that's got them? All right. Fantastic. Well, Will, I genuinely appreciate having you on today.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So it's Will Malpartida. I appreciate it. And for everybody else, I'm going to remind you all, don't be just a gamer, be a gamerpreneur.